HOA Karen demanded Grandpa's flag be removed. Didn't know my cousin's a colonel. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of quiet that hums with secrets, until Karen's voice sliced through it like a lawnmower on a Sunday morning. That flag's an eyesore, and it's against HOA rules, she barked, jabbing a manicured finger at the faded American flag fluttering above my Grandpa Joe's porch. I stood frozen on the lawn, my coffee mug trembling in my hand, as her words landed like a slap across his weathered face. Grandpa Joe, 82 years old and stubborn as the oak in his yard, didn't flinch. He'd flown that flag since he came home from Vietnam, a quiet tribute to the friends he'd lost and the country he'd served. It wasn't just fabric to him, it was memory, sacrifice, stitched into every frayed thread. Karen, the HOA's self-appointed enforcer, didn't care. To her, it was a violation, a blight on her vision of cookie-cutter perfection. She'd been hounding Grandpa for weeks, leaving nasty notes taped to his door, citing Regulation 12.4, no unapproved exterior displays. I'd tried to reason with her once, but she'd waved me off, her eyes gleaming with the kind of righteousness that thrives on control. I'm Lily, 27, a graphic designer who moved in with Grandpa to help him out after his hip surgery. I'd grown up hearing his stories gruff, heartfelt tales of jungles and brotherhood, and that flag was as much a part of him as his crooked smile. Watching Karen stand there, in her pristine white sneakers, demanding he take it down felt like watching someone spit on his soul. "You've got until tomorrow, Joe, or I'm reporting this to the board," she snapped, turning on her heel. Grandpa's eyes, usually warm, went cold. "Over my dead body," he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. She froze mid-step, then spun back, her face a mask of indignation. "Excuse me." The air thickened. Neighbors cracked their blinds, drawn to the drama like moths to a porch light. I stepped forward, heart pounding, ready to defend Grandpa, but he raised a hand. "Lily, let it be," he said, voice low but steady. Karen smirked, sensing victory, and strutted back to her house across the street, her clipboard practically glowing with triumph. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was tearing down more than a flag, but Grandpa just shuffled inside, his shoulders slumping in a way I'd never seen. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of that flag, swaying in the breeze, haunted me. It wasn't just about rules. It was about respect, or the lack of it. The next morning, I found Grandpa in the kitchen, staring at his old service medals pinned to a corkboard. "She doesn't get it, Lil," he said, his voice rough. "Never will." I nodded, my throat tight, and promised myself I'd fight this. I called the HOA office, but the receptionist just parroted Karen's line about community standards. I scoured the bylaws, hoping to find a loophole, but they were airtight. Karen had power, and she knew it. By noon, she was back, this time with a ladder and a pair of shears. "I warned you," she said, marching toward the flagpole. I bolted outside, yelling, "You can't just cut it down," but she ignored me, her face set in that infuriating mix of entitlement and glee. That's when it escalated. Karen didn't just lower the flag, she yanked it down, the pole creaking under her force. The fabric caught on a nail, tearing with a sickening rip. Grandpa, who'd hobbled out behind me, gasped like he'd been punched. The flag hit the ground, and with it, something in him broke. "You've got no right," I shouted, my voice shaking. Karen scoffed, tossing the torn flag aside like trash. "It's just a piece of cloth. Lily, grow up." Neighbors were gathering now, whispering, some nodding in agreement with her. I felt the ground shift beneath me, like the whole world was siding with her arrogance. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Mrs. Delaney, the quiet widow next door who never spoke at HOA meetings, stepped out of her house. She was tiny, barely 5 feet, but her voice carried like a megaphone. "Karen, you're out of line," she said, holding up a crumpled letter. "Joe's flag is protected under federal law." I checked. the crowd murmured, and Karen's smirk faltered. Mrs. Delaney, it turned out, was a retired paralegal who'd spent her career working with veterans' rights. She'd been watching Karen's crusade from her window, digging through legal codes while the rest of us argued. The Flag Protection Act of 2005, she continued, says veterans can display the flag on their property, HOA or not. Karen's face reddened, but she doubled down. That's not in our bylaws, she snapped, clutching her clipboard like a shield. The standoff grew uglier. Karen, refusing to back down, stormed over to Grandpa's mailbox and started ripping out his flowers, claiming they were non-compliant too. Petals scattered like confetti, and the mailbox toppled with a clang. I lunged forward, but Grandpa grabbed my arm. Wait, he said, his eyes fixed on something down the street. A black SUV rolled up, its engine purring, and out stepped my cousin, Marcus. I hadn't seen him in years, not since he'd been deployed overseas. He was taller than I remembered, his colonel's uniform crisp, his presence commanding. The crowd went silent. Karen froze, shears still in hand, as Marcus strode toward us. Lily, he called, his voice calm but edged with steel. What's going on? I stammered out the story, my words tumbling over each other. Grandpa stood straighter, pride flickering in his eyes. Marcus listened, his jaw tightening as he glanced at the torn flag, now tangled in the grass. He turned to Karen, who suddenly looked small. Ma'am, he said, his tone polite but lethal, that flag you just desecrated represents sacrifices you'll never understand. My grandfather served, I serve, and you think you can tear it down because it doesn't fit your aesthetic? Karen opened her mouth, but no words came. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number, and within minutes, a local news van pulled up. The reporter, a young woman with a sharp eye for a story, started filming. Karen's face drained of color as Marcus recounted the incident, his voice steady but laced with emotion. He spoke of Grandpa's service, the flag's meaning, and Karen's overreach. The neighbors, once divided, started nodding, some clapping. Mrs. Delaney handed the reporter a copy of the federal law, and the story took on a life of its own. The climax hit like a thunderclap. The reporter aired the segment that night, and it went viral. Social media exploded with "Running Ma, Justice for Joe," and Karen's name became synonymous with petty tyranny. The HOA board, under pressure, issued a public apology and revised their bylaws to explicitly allow veteran displays. Karen tried to spin it, posting a half-hearted apology on the neighborhood Facebook group, but the comments tore her apart. You disrespected a veteran, one read. Shame on you, said another. Her mailbox was stuffed with letters from veterans groups, condemning her actions. Her pristine lawn, once her pride, became a canvas for anonymous pranksters, red, white, and blue paint splattered across it one night. But the real justice came quieter, and it stung deeper. Marcus, with his connections, got the VA involved. They honored Grandpa with a small ceremony, presenting him a new flag and a commendation for his service. The neighborhood showed up. Even those who'd sided with Karen, she wasn't invited. I watched her peer out her window, alone, as the crowd cheered for Grandpa. He raised the new flag, his hands steady, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Karen's reign was over, not with a bang, but with the slow, crushing weight of her own actions. In the end, Grandpa's flag flew higher, a symbol of resilience. Karen moved away a month later. Her house sold to a young couple who hung their own flag without a peep from the HOA. I learned something through it all. Some fights aren't about winning, they're about standing up. What do you think? Did Karen get what she deserved? Or was there another way to handle it? Share your thoughts below.